University, and to my lesson, Get Results, an Introduction to the 80-20 Rule. So in our lesson today, we're going to be going over the basics of the 80-20 Rule and its importance. And this is actually one of my favorite concepts because I think there are so many applications that it can fall into, whether it's in business, in studying and observing natural systems or economic systems, or really how to measure your results in your business and personal life and in your relationships. There's a lot of applications. So I want to start with a quote from Richard Koch, who said that the way to create something great is to create something simple. Great quote because it defines not just what the 80-20 rule is about, but it also defines why I created Teachable University. It is trying to take the complex and to simplify it in such a way where we can focus on what matters and get the best results. And that's really what it's about. The 80-20 way is trying to get the most with less. And Richard Koch's book, Living the 80-20 Way, was really one of the inspirations for creating this lesson, because what Koch talks about is really what institutions, businesses, and individuals try to do on a daily basis. We all try to do more with less. And it just makes sense. It makes sense because let's face it, we live in a complicated world. With complication brings stress, anxiety, frustration, and the lack of results. And this is really what causes so much strife with so many people, is that there's something that we want and we don't know how to get it, or we're not living life to our standards or to the vision that we hold in our minds as far as how we want to live our lives. So how is it that we can do more with less and get better results? And this is a question that I want you to start pondering and thinking about. How is it that we can do more with less and get better results? And this question can relate to your businesses or careers, your investments, your relationships, your health, and your fulfillment and happiness. How can we do more or less? How can we maximize our potential? And Abraham Maslow talks about this. And then Maslow, if you're not familiar with him, is considered one of the 20th century's greatest psychologists, who is known for creating the Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. He was also a proponent of humanistic psychology, where he believed that people should be treated for their positive qualities rather than for their negative ones. And he also believed that people should take personal responsibility for their actions. He believed that each individual had the capability of transforming their lives for the better. But in studying and observing Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, there's basically 5 needs that are essential if we want to be able to maximize our lives and get the most out of it. And you can see that in this triangle here, this pyramid, how each one builds on the other. And on the bottom, the foundation of this pyramid, we have physiological needs, which is the bare necessities like food, water, and clothing, the necessities that we need for life. And then after that, we have safety needs, security, the need to feel safe. Now, this is a big issue because with stress and anxiety becoming a big issue in the United States today, where a large percent of the population struggles with some form of anxiety or worry, where a lot of us are in a constant state of fight or flight because many of us don't feel safe. And I'm not necessarily talking about solely physical safety, but it's something where, for example, if we're stressed out at work because we feel like we're worried about our boss, if they're going to fire us, or we're not going to get a raise, maybe we're having struggles at home with our significant other, we're always in this fight or flight, or we're always feeling like we're threatened. So those safety needs, without having that feeling of feeling safe, then we can see how this pyramid crumbles and we can't really work on the higher level needs that are necessary for enjoying life. So then we have the feeling of belongingness and the need for intimate relationships. Intimate relationships are very important. We're human beings, we're social creatures. We need those intimate relationships. And then self-esteem, the need for accomplishment. We need to feel like we're actually doing something with our lives. We need to find meaning and purpose. And then on the pinnacle, the top of the pyramid, is self-actualization. It's when we're really putting all of this together, all these needs, where we're really running on all cylinders and we're maximizing our potential. or maximizing our potential. In the field of positive psychology, and then just to go back to the pyramid, positive psychology really builds on a lot of what Maslow talks about. The need for relationships, the need for accomplishment, the need to feel safe, having the basic necessities for life. But more importantly, the ability to create and to, of course, maximize our potential. And with the 80-20 rule, how is it that the 80-20 rule can bring us to where we can really achieve these basic necessities that Maslow talks about in his hierarchy? And that's something we're going to explore a little bit in this lesson. And really the best way to think about how we can achieve these needs through the 80-20 rule is by removing mental roadblocks. We tend to be overly analytical, and we tend to overthink about many decisions that we make on a daily basis. And oftentimes we get in this routine because the way the brain works, we like consistency. We don't like change. And as we get older, it becomes much more difficult to change. But thanks to the latest research in neuroplasticity, we now know that even at an advanced age, even as you get older, the brain could change, but it requires thinking and acting in new ways that we can build new neural connections and be able to create a new mind, so to speak. So, Fredo Pareto, who was an Italian engineer and economist who discovered the Pareto efficiency, he is one of the founders who explored and discovered this 80-20 rule, which is not a mathematical formula. It's really more of an observation of complex systems. And this is something Pareto discovered when in his garden, and legend has it that in studying his garden, he found that 80% of peas came from 20% of pea pods. So this was something that he discovered in his garden, and he decided to expand on this and study the Italian economy, where he discovered that 80% of the wealth in Italy was held by 20% of the population. So again, this is not a mathematical formula. It is really an observation of complex systems. Whether in economics or in natural systems, we find that 80% of effects come from 20% of causes. So it's a few decisions, it's a small group of people or individuals or groups or organizations that cause effects that can impact an entire system. And when we talk about some more specific examples here, 20% of customers account for 80% of sales. You look at, for example, a company that sells insurance, you'll find that a small percentage of the salespeople or the sales force produce most of the profits and sales for that particular company. And when we talk about healthcare, 20% of customers account for 80% of healthcare costs. There's another one that I think a lot of people will probably agree with, that the top 20% of the population accounts for 80% of a nation's wealth. Okay, that's a small group of people that account for most of the nation's wealth. And then in natural systems, 1% of species that have ever lived on Earth make up the majority of species living today. So we could see whether it's in economics or in nature, there is a pattern of cause and effect where a small group can cause results that affect the system as a whole. Now, it doesn't have to be specifically just 80-20. It could be 90-10. It could be 60-40. But the whole point here is that when you look at complex systems and observing them, there's always a small group or a small set of decisions that can affect an entire system altogether. And it's a fascinating way to look at these systems and really how to observe your own life as well on a personal level. So one of the questions maybe you want to start asking yourself in different aspects of your life, we can say maybe your job or business. What activities yield the most productivity and income? What activities are you participating in that make you feel safe or unsafe? What relationships do you have that bring the most joy and satisfaction? What is it you're doing that brings you self-esteem? Is your career, personal relationships, health habits, and hobbies a reflection of the best version of yourself? As human beings, we participate in complex systems. When we interact with other people, where it contributing to a culture and society, a societal system. If we're a business owner or we work for a company, we're contributing to an economic system. So whether we like it or not, we are involved in complex systems on a daily basis. And with this complexity, how can we try to remove the clutter and focus on what matters the most? So, to be blunt and get to the point, stop doing what isn't working. If you're around people that are bringing you stress and frustration and are making you feel unhappy, if you're in toxic relationships, then perhaps you should consider spending less time with those people. If, for example, you're an entrepreneur and you're in activities, if you're doing activities that aren't yielding very good results in your sales, for example, start to examine what is working and focus on that. Oftentimes in sales, it's a select few customers that bring you the most results and the most sales and profitability. It's something to think about. Stop doing what isn't working. And by putting the 80-20 rule into practice, when we stop doing what isn't working and focus on what does, we focus on what's important while saving time and energy and succeeding much more with less effort. And that's the key. It's saving energy. We only have so much energy we can devote to certain things on a given day. We only have so much energy. So it only makes sense then that we try to conserve our energy by channeling our energy on activities and habits and relationships that bring us the most joy and the most productivity and the most results and most financial abundance. That just makes sense. And again, it's not a mathematical formula. It's an observation of complex systems and also a way to conserve energy so that we can put our energy on what matters the most. So if you love this video, if you enjoyed it, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can get updates on my new videos. And also you can get my book, Tweak the Art of Optimal Experience. I'll leave the link here on this page so that you can purchase it on Amazon. Again, I get much more in depth on the 80-20 rule and as well as other topics that can help enhance your creativity. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.